Filmmakers love adapting true stories to the big screen, and studios will always use the based on real events angle to draw in audiences and generate interest. They say that truth can be stranger than fiction, and sometimes what happens in the real world can be more compelling than anything a screenwriter can come up with. At the same time, it's important to remember that fact-based narrative movies are not documentaries, and can stray from the truth. Even if a majority of the facts presented are right, there will always be some elements that are overly dramatized for the sake of making a more interesting film. Here are 10 true story movies that were completely inaccurate. American Sniper. Clint Eastwood's biopic of the late Navy SEAL Chris Kyle was nominated for several prestigious awards, including Best Picture, and it broke box office records during its theatrical run. Despite those accolades, not everyone was a fan of what was on screen. Eastwood took several artistic liberties. The real Kyle was proud of having the most confirmed kills in US military history, while in the film, the character is portrayed as being conflicted by all the violence. In addition, Kyle's rival sniper Mustafa is mentioned only once in his book, but becomes the primary antagonist in the film. Even some of Kyle's targets in the Middle East were made up. It didn't hurt American Sniper's prospects, but rubbed some the wrong way. Argo. Ben Affleck's third directorial effort became a commercial hit, won Best Picture at that year's Oscars, and gave the zeitgeist a brand new catchphrase. But it didn't win everyone over with its fudging of history. The film severely downplayed the involvement of the Canadian government, which in reality played a larger role in the CIA. Affleck also fabricated the climactic sequence where the hostages have trouble with the airport security while leaving Iran. In the movie, it's a very tense encounter, but how it actually went down wasn't very cinematic at all. They all passed through without any issues and got to go back home. Argo probably wouldn't have won many awards if that's how it ended too. Cool Runnings. The inspirational tale of the Jamaican bobsled team became a favorite of the 90s, but it's hardly an educational tool for people interested in the real story. In the film, the athletes come up with the idea to form a team, resort to schemes to raise funding, and are ridiculed upon their arrival at the Olympics. But in reality, Jamaican bobsledding was the brainchild of two American businessmen who used corporate funding and Air Force recruits to construct the team. The actual Jamaicans in Calgary were also treated as equals by the other countries and used the East Germans' equipment. Instead of a rivalry as depicted in the movie, the two nations were quite friendly. The Pursuit of Happiness. This feel-good story received positive reviews and earned Will Smith an Oscar nomination, but the facts paint a darker picture of Chris Gardner. The film's heart comes from the bond between Gardner and his son. In actuality, Gardner's son was from an extramarital affair he had, and he was absent for much of the boy's life while Gardner looked for his dream job. He was also arrested on domestic violence charges instead of parking tickets like in the movie. In order to land his job, Gardner received help from a stockbroker as opposed to solving a Rubik's Cube. His story is still incredible, but if the movie stuck to the truth, Gardner may not have been too sympathetic. Braveheart. Braveheart is one of the most popular films of all time, but it also has its fair share of detractors due to its numerous historical inaccuracies. The real William Wallace was a knight from a royal family, not a poor peasant whose life is full of hardships. Braveheart also plays loose with several of the character relationships, which given the timeline of the story simply could not have happened. This includes Wallace's romance with Princess Isabel, who was only a child when Wallace was fighting. Their child in the film, Edward III, was born 7 years after Wallace's death. The Academy didn't seem to mind these aspects and gave the film several Oscars. The Social Network. David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin somehow made the origins of Facebook into a compelling drama, and many critics believe it's one of the finest films in the 21st century. Still, they had to make some stuff up. In the film, Mark Zuckerberg is inspired to create the social media site after being dumped by his girlfriend Erica Albright, but that's not what happened in reality. Also, while Facebook was being built, the students were hard at work with HTML code, instead of having wild parties as they do in the movie. Many of those involved with the real Facebook feel the film is overly dramatized, but viewers took it all in. The Imitation Game. Telling a fascinating true story from World War II, The Imitation Game found a great deal of critical and commercial success in 2014. It was a great vehicle for Benedict Cumberbatch, but the film has plenty of inaccuracies. The real Alan Turing had a strong relationship with his co-workers and got along with them instead of being the social outcast seen in the film. The Imitation Game neglects to mention Gordon Welchman, the mathematician who built Enigma with Turing. The movie also overly dramatizes Turing's dynamic with Joan Clark, particularly their breakup. It doesn't change the fact that The Imitation Game is a great film, but historians may take issue with it. Steve Jobs. The dream team of Danny Boyle, Aaron Sorkin, and Michael Fassbender brought the life of tech titan Steve Jobs to the big screen. And it was one of the more uniquely structured biopics in recent memory. With only 3 real sequences, the filmmakers had to play fast and loose with the rules. Many of the movie's best scenes didn't happen in real life. These include Lisa playing with Mac Payne, Jobs reconciling with former Apple CEO John Sculley, and most of Jobs' arguments with Steve Wozniak. This means that the moments before several major product launches weren't nearly as hectic as they are in the movie, but the film still paints an interesting portrait of its subject. A Beautiful Mind. This Best Picture winner covers the life of John Nash, a mathematical genius suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Through the help of his wife Alicia and medication, John overcomes his illness and earns a Nobel Prize. The film conveniently overlooks several aspects of the truth, such as the fact that the real Nash never saw hallucinations. He just heard voices. Alicia divorced Nash in 1963, and he had a son with another woman. In addition, Nash's statuses as being bisexual and anti-Semitic were also left out of the movie. In reality, Nash stopped taking his medicine in 1970 and never made a speech when he won his award. JFK. Snowden is hardly the first time Oliver Stone brought a true story to the big screen. One of his most famous efforts is JFK, which tried to uncover the Kennedy assassination. It made for one of the best films of the year, but it can't take the place of history textbooks. David Ferrie's confession that he was involved with any wrongdoing is fictitious. In reality, Ferrie repeatedly said he was innocent. The film also shows Ferrie working with Clay Shaw on the conspiracy, but those two people never met each other in real life. Audiences should expect some revisionist history in true story films, but this was taking things a bit too far. Those are just some of the true story films that were actually inaccurate. Which ones did we miss? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more fun videos. Thanks for watching!